Today it's my absolute joy and honor to welcome Eugene Pustoshkin from Russia into the Conscious Evolution Summit. Welcome, Eugene, to this space we share.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, and Eugene, I just will share a brief summary of your background so that people who haven't been in contact with you might get a bit of sense where you are coming from. So you are a clinical psychologist, an integral therapist in private practice, holoscendence and integral meditation teacher, and one of the pioneers of the Integral Metatheory and Practice in Russia. And you have also translated several books from Ken Wilber into Russian. You are also chief editor at Eros Kosmos, the leading Russian integral transpersonal online magazine or journal, and the bureau chief and associate editor of Russia at the Integral Leadership Review. And as I'm a big fan of integral theory, I guess I read Ken books since 30 years. And I also had the honor to have Ben Seganti in the last two summits. And I participated in the just recently happening the European Integral Conference. And I ended up in your workshop. And it was about a unique kind of meditation. And as I'm always open to experience new modalities, I really enjoyed what you shared there and the space you offered there. So I followed this impulse to send you the invitation, and you responded quite fast with a yes. And now we are already here, and I just love moving in this flow with you. Yeah.
Thank you again for inviting. And I really appreciate that you participated in the workshop and you tasted some of these, not ideas, but practices that we've developed over like a decade for me and more than a decade for the lineage I am a part of.
When I read your introduction and I looked a bit what you do, so I assume that meditation is kind of a method and a practice you really appreciate a lot as a support in our development. Can you maybe share a bit how it started for you entering this realm of meditation, and what you kind of tried out, and how you came to this kind of meditation you will also share today?
I was interested from the early on in transpersonal psychology. I was reading Stan Grof's works. I was reading Arnold Mindell and Amy Mindell's books. And of course, through that connection, I got interested in Ken Wilber's Integral Psychology. And when I read his book, Integral Psychology, I found that he gives some answers to my feeling of meaning in psychology, because I was by that time studying clinical psychology and I was not satisfied by the way it was reductionistically taught, and still probably it's kind of lots of reductionisms like limited thinking and not appreciating the realms of consciousness, of culture, of different states of consciousness. Everything is more like linear and too dry. So when I got more into integral psychology, there is this notion in integral framework developed by Ken Wilber of integral life practice. And one of the important modules of this integral life practice is the spirit module. So they list there is a book by Ken Wilber, Terry Patton, and two other integral practitioners, and they list some core essential modules for integral life practice. Integral life practice meaning how to have a holistic practice of life. And one module is shadow work. We have to work therapeutically with our emotions and process feelings from childhood and traumatic experiences and really repair ourselves in some way, because most of us, if not all of us, are in some way are wounded or injured, and we have to take care of that. They list also the mind module, like developing cognitive capacities, seeing world more clearly, thinking in a more clear way, being able to reason your ways and take perspectives. For instance, perspective taking is very important, and as we know, perspective taking is also important in empathy, because empathy without perspective taking, it's like confusion. I experience something emotionally, but if I don't take wisdom perspective and look at the situation from different angles, I can get enmeshed in those flooded, very strong emotions sometimes. And they also listed the spirit module, which basically meant meditation, being connected with spirit. And by the time I already had some spiritual experiences, some psychedelic experiences, I was interested in altered states of consciousness. So when I met my psychotherapy teacher and my holoscendence teacher, which is a main primary psychotherapy and psychospiritual method I work with, his name is Sergei Kupriyanov. He lives and works in Helsinki as an integral therapist. He gave this direct transmission of this method of meditation, which is developed in holoscendence. And I met him in like 2008 for the first time, like more than or about 12 years ago. And since then, I started to work on starting to understand and experientially integrate this sort of meditation. It is a meditation with eyes open. You integrate all the fields of perception, all the sensory channels, visual field, audio field, body, movements of the body, all other modalities of experience. And then you get to kind of biofield experience and subtle energy experience. And the main principle is all at onceness. You are being aware of everything simultaneously at the same time. And when you cultivate this for longer periods of time, you get into a very altered state of consciousness without any assistance of any like substances or any breath work. It's just a pure meditation experience. And this state, it's often a very spacious one, very lots of wisdom, compassion arises. And basically, since I received this transmission, I've been honing my own practice, training myself. And also one of the important principles is to practice this meditation while communicating, while doing work. For instance, I'm a psychologist, I do work with clients, and it's important for me to be in a special state of consciousness, in an altered or elevated state of consciousness when I do practice with people. And also when I communicate, like when we communicate now, I attempt to be spacious and aware and mindful of everything that's arising, not just in this communication, but also in other, subtler fields of experience which may arise when you open it up with this specific meditation. And then, of course, I've been developing my own kind of techniques, some gimmicks, some my personal style of this meditation, because in holoscendence, we think of any sort of meditation or any sort of practice as that which arises naturally and authentically for this particular person. It's not a one approach, one size fits all approach. It's an approach individually tailored to the specific occasion, like specific event right now in this moment, and the specific person, specific group. So it's been my main practice, but I also been studying some other mindfulness approaches. I really appreciate Daniel P. Brown's approach to Mahamudra and Dzogchen meditation. And he's one of the most profound teachers I've ever encountered.
Mhm.
So I feel lots of connection with Buddhist practices, specifically Indo-Tibetan Buddhism, but also with some Indian lineages, like some of the experiential vibrations of Kashmir Shaivism. When I encountered this tradition, I've encountered something I didn't find in other lineages, although there are some lineages today who practice Kashmir Shaivism, but the core lineage, it seems to have, if not vanished, it's very thin. So it's more through books, through reading texts. And I also start to appreciate more when I encounter and read about contemplative practice in Orthodox Christianity. That on the Ephon mountain for more than 1,000 years, maybe almost 1,500 years, there's been this tradition of hesychasm, the silent prayer, which is also in its principles very close to what we are doing in this whole ascendance and what I call now integral meditation, because in integral meditation we also add some other elements. But basically, and we can talk about these other elements if we feel like it, but basically this is the background story behind this mindfulness approach I use.
Mm-hmm. And with what I hear with this holo essence, that it's kind of it's really a very unique and profound way of being present with all what is inside and outside, I would say. And then it's also something you really can bring into your day, as you said. It's not just you don't have your eyes closed, you don't sit somewhere isolated. Is it really kind of designed like that and meant to be just really brought as an attitude into your day, basically moving all the time like that?
That's absolutely correct. We like to say that we don't practice meditation as a separate practice. Meditation is an attitude for us. It's an attitude towards life and in life. Whole life is a opportunity to be mindfully present in this spacious, integral way, in this whole ascendant way. And when we are present, when I'm present in this way, some altered states of perception arise and altered states of awareness. And this awareness is like more, when it is stable enough, it is more a transpersonal presence. It is not just me, Eugene, with my personal biography. It's like a synergy of my personhood with this kind of cosmic principle. And when I am and people who share this state are in this presence, it is much easier to use any tool. Sometimes people, like psychologists or coaches, they focus on learning specific tools, like these technical tools. How do we do this exercise to get this result? This is not our approach. Our approach is more about feeling the reality lying underneath every tool, every approach. This is why Holoscendence, for instance, we integrate dozens of approaches, but we don't claim that we are as good as Gestalt therapists or as good as ones who are doing the diamond approach in their specific approaches. We are inspired by their approaches, and we try to sense the essential vibration behind their approach or at the core of their approach, and then take this vibration. While an approach can be copyrighted, the vibration and this inspiration, it cannot be copyrighted, and we take in this vibration and try to reenact it in experience when it's appropriate, when a person has a traumatic experience, or he or she is ready to get into a state of mindfulness, or maybe he stops at the point of abyss and needs to be helped in stepping into together into this shared experience of nothingness, when nothing is making sense and everything becomes fluid. This is our approach is very powerful in that we it's been developed for a few decades, and I've been studying it and training it for like 10 years already. So I think maybe Sergey, my teacher, could be a good person to also invite to such a gathering as yours. But this is, as for my experience, this is how we do. We are not only focused on our specific approach. It is, we are very deeply inspired by Ken Wilber's idea of integral framework. We want to take in the biological realities, subtle energetic realities, social realities, economic realities, cultural realities, worldviews, states of consciousness, and also structures of consciousness or stages of maturity, like what adult and child development psychology studies. So, and various techniques and approaches to work with these areas. So this is how we try to be, like being integral practitioners.
Yeah. And what I just noticed, I mean, I practiced it once in your workshop, but for me, it was really a profound way of being, and the understanding of who or what I am can easily really expand because you invite really this different senses and different layers, and it's you are really very present in all of that. And I just assume that when I'm in that open, expanded state of who I am, no matter what comes in, I'm so, let's say, aware and sensitive and open to what is coming, that no matter if information is coming or another person with its story or a method, it kind of lands really in a fertile field, so to speak. So this is why I sensed it as a profound just way of just being with whatever comes. Yeah.
This is this particular teaching of integral meditation. There is an integral meditation in haloscendence, of course, and this is what I just briefly described. But also, what you point to is this capacity to work with any object that is arising in awareness, and everything that we are ever aware of arises within our awareness. We can interpret it differently. Of course, there is some kind of ontological reality beyond like my individual mind, but still everything I'm ever communicating with, I'm communicating through the medium of my soul, through the medium of my awareness, including individual awareness and my subjective perspective. And this integral meditation, it allows you to take in any object. It can be traumatic experience, it can be turmoil, emotion turmoil within. It can be empathic attunement with another person, and it can be a hyper object like COVID pandemic or climate change, as we tried to show at the Integral Meditation Workshop during the Integral European Conference. That even such a complex and multidimensional object, a hyper object, very large, very temporally huge object which cannot be taken into account by just one perspective. This kind of integral meditation, it facilitates, it kind of moisturizes awareness to being able to take it in slowly, maybe, or maybe at all at the same time, but you just resonate with the vibrancy field behind that object.
Yeah, and I also assume that it could be also quite helpful with any kind of difficulty or any kind of question you are facing, maybe kind of trying to find direction, where to direct your energy, where to go, maybe needing to take a decision, bringing it into that space can maybe really give the possibility that something can arise in this more open and aware and expanded state, which you wouldn't maybe see when you just think of something or talk to someone or rationalize it. So in a way, it can be really also for individuals kind of a helpful tool. Yeah.
That's correct. And Even in communication, many people who do mindfulness, of course, they're more present with people. But the limitation is that mindfulness is often done with eyes closed. And people practice like that for decades. And then when they have to confront reality with eyes open, it's not always transferable, this state of inner calmness when I'm closing my eyes. But I have to look at my partner, for instance, when we are having an argument, for instance, or I have to look at this policeman or this person who is trying to steal my wallet or something, and still stay present with the reality. And I have to feel like, for instance, as many people do, like shame within the intersubjective relational field. And this is where this specific approach helps. We are trying to notice I try to notice when I think about you, for instance, instead of being aware of you and be giving space to you and to myself. I'm starting to create representations in my mind. And this method, both holoscendence and integral meditation, are the direct ways to, dispel these clouds of thinking, more into feeling what's arising moment to moment, and there clarity arises, and thinking itself becomes more subtle, more spacious, and less gross. When you speak about gross, subtle, and very subtle, thinking itself can become very, very subtle and very all-encompassing, like some kind of wisdom quality starts to arise. And this is what we are trying to do, not just turn off the mind, but include and holoscend everything, including the mind, not making mind and thinking some kind of devil, which separates us from reality and we need to go back to senses. But instead of that, trying to to recognize that everything has its own place in this reality, and everything is an ornament of this great perfection of being.
Yeah, and in a way, I would say you don't keep life out. You invite life in. So you are part of all facets of life. They can all be there. All is welcome. And this is really something I like, because in many other modalities, you put other things out, noises out, and other people out, and light out, and there everything can be. So it's really in life. Yeah.
Right. You can facilitate groups in that kind of mode of awareness. You can do sports practice, and some particular techniques which are related to our integral meditation and holoscendence are even like people in special operation troops, military people. They use it to enhance their acuity and their capacities to operate in the territory of warfare. So, and also free divers, like there's this recent movie about the famous Russian free diver Natalia Molchanova. The movie is called One Breath. I don't know how it's marketed in English, but you probably can find about it. And it shows that some aspects of this technique from a little bit different lineage than mine, they're used to train free divers to notice when their state of mind is changing, when they're going to lose their consciousness, for instance, and they start to do it in a safer way, and also widening their limits, going to setting their own records. So even in extreme sports, it can be used as some kind of sort of mindfulness-like technique, which is very similar to what we use.
Mm-hmm. And Eugene, I just also have this question, because you mentioned also you practice that in groups, and I'm just curious, did you experience that it also supports this sensing and being in a more resonant, coherent field, or even in what many start to practice and value much more this we space. Is this also something we can enter into when we do this in a group?
This is an essential aspect of our practice. We speak about that as like a in Russian there is a term which they don't even often translate to English or other languages. It sounds like sabornost. Sabornost is sabor is cathedral or church. It's like a church-like unity of people. Unity not as a uniform, like everything is alike, but unity as a symphony of voices. And this is the direct experience that we have, this sabornost, this shared field, this deepened sense of we space, where this idea that I'm separate and I'm kind of have this invisible yet very hard boundary between me and you cannot feel me and I cannot feel you, it just vanishes. We just recognize this condition which has always been like that we are all united in multidimensional ways. We are all co-experiencing life, co-inhabiting it in a single event, looking at it from different perspectives, yet from a ground of being, which we all co-share. This is why we have this miracle called V space, V groups. And this is one of the strongest and most powerful developments in our approaches, especially holoscendence, is how to be authentically present, being a finite person, opening up to the infinite dimension of presence in a shared experience with everyone.
Yeah, I'm really touched when I hear that, and when I now imagine really we are soon going into practice as our audience maybe get more and more curious. Can we get a taste of it? But I really sense that we can really now, when we join all in your guidance, we as an audience coming together in this summit of people which are really, let's say, sense our time as meaningful, and we want to contribute, and we want to kind of really experience this togetherness and co-creating. So this is such a beautiful foundation and a piece of the summit that you give us this opportunity, so where we can get this experience. I hear it also more as a side effect. We don't really focus on that or we aim on that, but it happens when we bring our whole system into that connectedness and awareness, basically. Is it like that? Would you agree?
Yeah, we are like sharing a single huge continuous body of awareness. That's how I would put it.
Great. So is there anything else needed as an explanation before we go into the practice, Eugene?
Well, I think I would like to make a certain point about that what we do, these practices, they're to a great extent are phenomenological, which means experience-based. Yet we also take into account this teaching of Ken Wilber's integral approach, his integral meta-theory and practice, that like this direct experiential approach is but one of the dimensions of reality. That if we want to be holistic and comprehensive about how we approach every event, we have to take into consideration other methods and other perspectives, not just those which arise like this luminous or voluminous awareness, space, moment to moment, in this present second and the here and now. But also we have to study phenomena as they unfold in time, sometimes through years and decades, and be very historic about it. We have to ground ourselves in our histories, where we come from, and really study those billions of years of our origin. And also we have to look into the future, and both the past and the future and the present are included in this sense, in this huge transtemporal, non-local now moment. And one important thing to consider is stages of maturity, which we haven't talked about. But basically, we can be very selfish. We can just take our only one perspective, me, or we can grow into appreciating our like families and our nations, which could be ethnocentric, which is a normal stage of development for some people, and for many people, like 70 or 80% of the world population are at a normal stage of development of ethnocentric consciousness. And we can be world-centric, like in this gathering, it is clearly a world-centric and embracing the whole planet, many cultures, many people from different cultural groups and countries come together and discuss these things. And we can also be cosmocentric, which means we transcend even our identification with our species and with our planet and with this current biological structure and Gaia system in which we are enmeshed. And we are just realizing ourselves as some kind of cosmic presence or cosmic consciousness, which uniquely manifests through all of us. So this would be a very important, in my opinion, thing to highlight, that it's not just about experience, it's also about seriously studying and growing up, not just waking up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you for bringing that into the conversation. Yeah. Great. So can we start with the practice?
Sure. And I'm certain that many people already are some kind of who followed what we were speaking, and especially not what we were speaking, but what's been arising, are already in some sort of heightened state or deeper state of presence. And now we'll add some kind of technique to that, which you can use at home, and you can use it for a few years and even whole life, and it will yield very good results. So the standard technique is sit, comfortably. Your breathing is natural, and be aware of the gift of sight, of the gift of your eyes, visual field, just as it is right now, with your eyes open. Everything is arising in this visual field, and you don't even do any effort. It arises effortlessly. Like Brother David Steindl-Rast says, it's like a gift. It's given to us for free, our all channels of perception and whole life in a sense. It's a gift, and this is a gift of visual consciousness. And when you are attending to the visual consciousness while sitting comfortably and breathing naturally, be aware of the periphery of your visual field. Usually we focus on somebody in the center, and especially that somebody speaks to us. But the next time when you speak to somebody, or you listen to the next dialogue or interview, or a teacher speaking something, don't just look at him or her. Be aware of everything that's around the room, and it's not the point to see everything clearly, like every object, but just be aware of the visual field itself. What helps is to see at the same time the very left point in your visual field and the very right point in your visual field, and then try to equally distribute awareness through the entire visual field horizontally, and whenever any single item starts to focus your attention on itself, release this item and go back to this field of visual field, to this spacious awareness of the periphery in the left and in the right. And also add there, when you're ready, the top point in the top of your visual field and in the bottom. Like there can be a ceiling in the top, your own lap in the bottom, and the floor. And you're just aware of the entire visual field like you are in the movies and you're looking at this movie screen and you're not focusing on anything in particular. Things may start to become blurry and they start to, go like darker or lighter, and this is all right. And you just be aware of the entire visual field. Every time attention grasps one thing, be aware of everything else at the same time. And release attention from that thing into the visual field itself. And you can, in your own practice, spend like many minutes doing that. If you do it like for 10 or 15 minutes, you will notice specific effects. And if your eyes get tired, which is a usual experience because we use our eyes so often doing this computer work, office work, and looking at things very focused way, just let yourself release the tension behind your eyes. Notice all tensions, give space to them, and just let them relax in their own way. And if they persist, let them be as they are. They are perfect, just as they are. And we'll go a little bit further, but you can feel free to stay in the visual field. But if we go further, just add all sounds. Notice that you hear sounds naturally. Birds, cars, other people, some clocks, any sound. Sound of your own body. Like in the skull, there is often this sound of blood flow. And simultaneously be aware of the visual field and all sounds, while resting deeply in awareness of visual field and all sounds. Hear all sounds at once, as if you stop searching for the source of any sound. You're in the nature, you hear birds singing, insects buzzing, grass, wind, river, and you just walk or sit and you hear all sounds at once. And here in your room, or if you're in nature, you hear all natural sounds while being aware of the entire visual field, breathing naturally. And the final stage should be, and you can of course continue just being aware of visual field, or just being aware of visual field plus audio field, hearing. Notice you have a body, somebody, you're somebody. You're embodied being, and just give space to naturally arising embodied sensation of being here and now. And if you have any tensions in your body, notice where they are and let go of them in your attention. Just let them be as they are, but redistribute your awareness through the entire body. Feel your hands, feel your face, feel your head, your arms, torso, back, legs, the weight of the body. And now simultaneously be aware and rest as visual, audio, and body presence. And just will be silent for a couple minutes and just make your awareness moves to integrate visual field, audio field, body. The best thing would be effortlessly just open up and be aware of everything at the same time, all at once. And of course, if you're still thinking, the thinking can subside, it can go quiet, but if it's still active, just give space to it as well. It's all right. Continue bringing awareness to visual field, to hearing, and to body. And for those of you who feel it already, one last thing, like a surprise gift. Be aware of the intersubjective field, of the field of being present at this summit, and of being present in whatever community you are in right now. If there's somebody else in your room, just be aware of how this person and all these groups of people are arising within your awareness, as this room is within awareness, and how they are reflected and resonated in your own embodiment, where in the body you feel the presence of these people or animals. And let your eyes rest. If it's after a long working day, eyes might be tired. So you just redistribute your awareness through the entire body and let your eyes relax. And if you want, you can pause this if you watch it as a recording and just spend some time just being in this state. And then when you're ready, just feel your legs. Be aware of the physicality of the room. It's not like you're returning somewhere, you're integrating the physical material presence of everything, while continuing having the soft gaze into reality and seeing the faces of people who are dear to you, whom you meet, the unique beauty of everyone who is visiting this shared space, which you also a visitor, a temporary visitor on our journey somewhere in the mystery of our being. And also we can, continue or wind down our own conversation. If you just shared like a few words of what this experience has been for you, I'd be really grateful.
I had immediately, when you guided us into this spreading the visual field and not focusing on something, I could my whole body respond with a deeper grounding and with a relaxation, as if not focusing on something kind of brings a relaxation in the whole system. That was my immediate response in the beginning. And also the sense, it's not, I sense it, it's very natural. I don't sense a tension in it. It feels like as I could just be all the time like that. He's very natural and simple. I love its simplicity in a way, but also, of course, you're guiding in inviting all of that, and the sounds and the body and everything really help that. And I just assume when you would have more practice, you can just internally guide yourself into that, and there will come a day where it's maybe you just think of it and whew, everything opens.
That's right. We place a lot of importance, like, appreciators of German philosophy would also appreciate that, I think, on the dimension of will. And at some point, like free spontaneous will can, like an intention, and the flower of awareness state just arises instantaneously without any effort.
And Eugene, what came to my mind also is maybe that you, at the end of our conversation, maybe share your perspective, what benefit you see individuals practicing that and inviting that into their daily living. And also, when we look more broader, if you would imagine a society kind of more operating like that and bringing that into their living, what benefit do you see in bringing that into our lives?
I think it is a way to build, or not even build, but let it grow, this culture of awareness of the profound power of interiority and the space, we shared experiences, which are so important in so many fields, from parenting, where if you are not in this awareness state, you're not aware of the subtler states of your child, for instance, to education, where the education process itself is so much more effective and efficient if you know how to regulate your cognition states and states of awareness, to therapy, because if you're, as a therapist, for instance, are not able to navigate your own states, it diminishes the capacity to help others, and you also can more empathically attune to this other person and share both the pains but also profound stillness, quietude, silence, and the direct experience of everything being all right. No matter what is happening, everything is all right. And in so many other areas, like our conversations with each other, we can finally get unstuck from the ordinary chit chat by maybe we even would speak about the same things, but we start to feel the vast abundance of energies surrounding us, because this way of practicing, if you do it for an extended period, like for years, it really opens up the dimension of feeling into the energies of life energies, and knowing that we all are living in the fields of mutual resonances. And we can be very conscious and even super conscious about what we do. And also it helps in finding our own purpose, because the purpose, if it's real, it really is not something I'm thinking about or imagine pictures. It's something I feel viscerally. And for those of us who are not yet feeling that they are not yet connected with the purpose or meaning of life, I would recommend to use this method to sense into the whole or lack of this meaning or purpose, And this very lack of meaning and purpose, eventually, very soon for some, will give space to true meaning and purpose, while you continue to interact with the world, reading books, watching these wonderful dialogues, working on yourself, and also resting in this primordial awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I sense just also this benefit if you would bring that into a relationship as a couple, into a family, just cultivating that way of being together. And my partner and I, we do something a bit similar since quite some years. And I just noticed there often just the need to have a conversation, to have an exchange with words often is not there because there are so many other ways of being totally connected where we don't need words for. So in a way, I also sense that our gatherings and our how we are together could be maybe also more silent and flowing and moving on other levels more.
That's true, even though this is one last thing what I probably forgot to mention about this particular approach of us. Words are very important, like you can speak about something or you can speak from something. I'm speaking from my experience, for instance. And when you're aware of everything, including your own vocalization, you can be more authentic about what you are speaking and not, kind of push yourself into saying. But at the same time, the gift of speech, it is a magnificent tool of sharing the resonance with others. It's like direct connection through these waves of sound and through non-local dimensions, because it's a miracle we understand each other. We speak each a different language, and we share English language, of course, but really we share something deeper, almost a telepathic like resonance, or maybe even telepathic like resonance. And words in our position, they're not something alien to silence. Words may arise from silence and their fabric can be of silence, and they can guide us to silence, and they're non-dual with silence and with this presence. So if we learn to speak and appreciate our words in this way, there will be no more this huge gap between silence and speaking. And everything we speak, our words will be kind of part of mandala or part of perfection or this wonderful mystery of being in the world.
Mm. Beautiful. I love it. It's really, I'm grateful that you bring that. Eugene, I enjoyed our flow together and you bringing this beautiful technique into the summit space. And I hope you kind of watching now this recording, you also take something with you. And Eugene, I just want to give you the opportunity to end our conversation with one maybe core thing which is now there at the end of our conversation, what you want to speak into the space of all of us connecting here.
I'm grateful that you're all here. You're here specifically, and everyone who is watching this. I know that we have this dimension of time and space, and I also know for sure there's this timeless and spaceless dimension. So no matter when you're watching this, we are all sharing this strange presence in this timeless and spaceless, non-local aspect or ground of life. And I'm very grateful to you all for your attention and especially for your awareness here. And may all that we've done here today and on any other day and in any moment when this recording is enacted, may this bring more lightness, more wakefulness, more integration, more liberation to all human beings and to all beings ever there are in any times and dimension.
I keep it like that. I don't want to add anything. It's complete, and I just want to thank you for participating and bringing your presence and your being into the space. Thank you, Eugene.
Thank you. Спасибо.